All right, let's dive in. Today, we are tackling one of the biggest, most complicated challenges out there, the global climate crisis and our total reliance on fossil fuels. We're going to break down what's really happening, why it's so incredibly hard to fix, and what the path forward could even look like, all based on some really fantastic reporting.
To really set the stage, I want to start with this thought from Carl Sagan. Every single thing that has ever happened in human history, every war, every piece of art, every time someone fell in love, it all happened right here, on this one fragile little planet. It's the only home we've ever had, and its future, well, that's what we're here to talk about.
So, let's get right to it. The most important thing to get your head around is that this is not some problem for your grandkids. No, the changes that used to take thousands of years are now happening in a single human lifetime. The unraveling isn't coming. It's happening right now.
And that puts us in a really unique and kind of terrifying position. Think about it like this. We are the pivot generation. The generations before us, they lived in a world with a pretty stable, predictable climate. We call that normality. The generations after us, well, they're set to inherit a world of increasing chaos, unless we are the ones who change the script.
And if you want to see what that chaos looks like, just look at Greenland. Scientists there have started using this term, zombie ice. It's a horrifyingly perfect name, right? This is ice that's already doomed. It's broken away from its parent glacier, it's not getting any new snow. It is literally the walking dead of the ice world. And when it melts, and it will melt, it's a guaranteed one-way ticket to higher sea levels. It's a tipping point that we can literally watch happen.
And this crisis hits everywhere, just in different ways. On one side of the world, you've got this slow-motion catastrophe in Greenland, where the ice is melting 5 times faster than it was just 2 decades ago. But on the other side, you get the brutal, immediate shock of something like Cyclone Freddy in Malawi, which just wiped 700,000 homes off the map. They seem totally unrelated, but they're two symptoms of the exact same problem.
Which, of course, leads to the big question. If we know all this, if the science is so clear, why on earth haven't we fixed it? Let's talk about the gridlock.
Well, the simple, staggering answer is right here. 80%. That's how much of our global energy comes from fossil fuels. It powers our homes, our cars, our entire world. We live in a civilization built on carbon. And trying to change that isn't just a small tweak. It's a massive, almost wartime-level effort that gets to the very core of how our world works.
And for a perfect case study in this gridlock, just look at the United States, the world's biggest producer of fossil fuels. One minute you have the Inflation Reduction Act, this huge set of incentives, carrots, not sticks, to boost green tech. And it was working. The next, you get this massive political whiplash back to drill baby drill, and all that progress gets stalled or reversed. How can you plan for the long term with that kind of volatility?
But, it's not just about big politics. This quote from an old GM exec, it really gets to the human side of this. For auto workers in Detroit, this isn't some abstract debate. The shift to electric cars is a direct threat to their jobs, to their families, to their way of life. And that fear, that deep, real fear of being left behind, that is a political force you just can't ignore.
So, yeah, the problems are huge, but it's not hopeless. Far from it. So let's shift gears and talk about the search for solutions. And there's no single magic answer here. It's more like a whole spectrum of different paths we could take. And one of the most interesting roadmaps comes from Sweden. What's amazing is they didn't have some grand top-down plan. Instead, for decades, they just made a series of small, practical, non-ideological decisions starting way back in the 70s. And the result? Today, they're one of the most low-carbon societies on the planet.
And a huge piece of this puzzle is something called district heating. It's a brilliantly simple idea. You have one central plant, a lot of times it just burns trash, that heats up a ton of water. Then it pumps that hot water through a network of pipes directly into people's homes and offices. The upshot is, most Swedes get low-carbon heating without even thinking about it. And it's worked. It took their building emissions from the global average of about 10% all the way down to just 2%.
Now, let's wade into a really tricky one, nuclear power. For years, a lot of environmentalists were totally against it. But now, in a place like Finland, some of its biggest champions are green activists, and this chart kind of shows you why. Just look at the price difference. Finland, running on over 50% nuclear power, pays about 7 cents a kilowatt hour. Ireland, which relies heavily on wind, they're paying 47 cents. It's a pretty stark reminder that you need power 24/7, and for a lot of people, nuclear has to be part of that conversation.
And then you get to the really wild stuff at the far end of the spectrum, geoengineering.
We're talking about ideas like marine cloud brightening, basically sending ships out to spray sea mist into the sky to make clouds whiter so they reflect more sunlight. I mean, the fact that we're even seriously considering these play God kinds of technologies, it just shows you how desperate things have gotten. It's an epic gamble.
And that's because, and this is a hard truth, no matter what we do, some level of change is already baked in. It's inevitable. So the other huge part of this is figuring out how to adapt, how to live on what is basically a new planet.
And we're already seeing two very different models for this. You've got the Dutch model, which is all about high-tech engineering, massive storm barriers, creating new dunes, and this long-term planning that's totally separate from politics. Then you have the Bangladesh model, which is the opposite. It's low-cost and built on community. Their cyclone shelters are also schools, and they have this powerful social belief that you leave no one behind. They're both incredibly effective, and it just shows you that solutions can be about technology or about people.
But adaptation also means retreat, and that's where things get really painful. The village of Fairborn in Wales is a perfect example of how not to do it. The local government basically just announced one day that, hey, in 40 years, we're not going to defend this town from the sea anymore. The result? Total disaster. House prices collapsed overnight, and the people living there were basically stranded, becoming the UK's first climate refugees. It's a masterclass in what happens when you handle this badly.
Because the cost of not retreating, of just trying to hold the line, is just astronomical. This number, $76 billion. That's the price tag for a seawall just to protect the coast of Florida. And here's the real kicker. That wall would only be effective until 2040. So what do? Do you spend a fortune on a temporary fix? Or do you start planning for a managed retreat? That's the multi-billion-dollar question for coastlines all over the world.
So all of this, it brings us right back to that idea of the pivot generation. It all boils down to a fundamental choice that is ours to make. Is it going to be business as usual, or are we going to find a way to be brilliant?
So what does that brilliance actually look like? Well, according to the experts, it's a whole mix of things. It's a wartime effort to get off carbon. It's finally putting a real price on carbon pollution to make the clean stuff cheaper. It's turning the green transition into a competitive race to the top between countries. And yes, it's about us too. Maybe flying less, sure, but more importantly, using our power as citizens to demand that industries and governments change.
And that's really the heart of it. This quote just nails it. Your individual choices matter, of course they do, but they're not going to solve a problem this big on their own. The single most powerful thing any of us can do as individuals is to stop only acting as individuals and start acting collectively, together, for the common good.
So we started with this idea of our fragile, precious home, and that's where we'll end. There's no backup plan. There's no planet B. Like it or not, for the moment, the Earth is where we make our stand. The future isn't written yet. It's going to be what we choose to make it. Thanks for watching.